We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Here's the flag right up here by Eric Fogg. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yay. And Eric is rightly fitted with red, white, and blue. Let's give Eric a round of applause. And let's give Christy Suzik a round of applause for the Hero Award. Christy. Woohoo. Next we will have, there's Christy. Yay. Next we will have introduction of our guests, our visitors who are with us. Those of you who have brought guests with you, we ask that you come forward now and introduce your guests to us. We're really excited to do a little switch. Instead of us introducing your guests, you will be able to introduce your guests yourselves. So please come on up to the podium, those of you who have brought guests or prospective members.
We're very happy to introduce Adil Fardaheb over here as a prospective member. Adil is going into the field of engineering, and Claire Miller, our daughter, a visitor from Virginia.
Thank you, Ariel.
I am pleased to introduce my sister, Amy Reddy, who is an employee, Vice President of Talent at Al Nair.
I'd like to introduce Nancy Bronska, who's over in the corner. She grew up in Cincinnati, but lived in St. Louis for 60 years, and I brought her back to Cincinnati.
All right, now this one's going to be really hard to believe, but I brought my mother tonight. It's my mom, Roz. She just is relocating from Chicago to Cincinnati as of 2 days ago. So, welcome, Mom.
Hi, I'm Jeff Stornetti. My guest is my wife, who also relocated here from Chicago via St. Louis. But that was 50 years ago.
Thank you. We'll have one or two more.
And so my name's Carrie. I wanted to introduce my wife, Maria. It's probably the first time a lot of you guys have met her. She's from all over the country, but we live together now in Cincinnati. So.
Hi, I brought my bride of 41 years, Marnie.
And I brought my wife, Haley, and our daughter, Aurora. So.
Thank you so very much, and welcome to all of our guests. Let's give our guests and prospective members another round of applause. I will make the announcements very brief tonight so that you can hear from the owner, Anthony Maieron, of the Revel Urban Winery. We have some birthdays this week. I will go through those names very quickly. The 21st, we had 3 birthdays. Pete Armstrong. Pete is here. Let's give, woohoo! Scott Hope. He said about 45. No, I'm just kidding. Scott Hoberg and Jordan Finley, both also of September 21st. September 22nd, Rob Cross. 23rd, David Arens. September 25th, Ashish Chatterjee. September 26th, Steve Drafel. And September 27th, Karen Hilton. Let's give them all a round of applause for their birthdays. Our meeting sponsor for this event tonight is UBS Financial. Thank you, John Farmeyer. Where's John? We will pick up with Split the Pot just a little bit later on. Our next Rotary Euchre Night. Tickets are still available for Split the Pot. Please see Bob McElroy over here. If you want Split the Pot tickets, we will go over the Split the Pot results just a little bit later. The next Rotary Euchre Night will be hosted by Don and Mary Lee Ollinger, September 28th, Tuesday. So don't miss that if you want to attend the Euchre event. It will begin at 6:30 p.m. We will celebrate World Polio Day, and our illustrious Deanne Fleming will tell you a little bit about World Polio Day and the Pink Purple Pinky Donut Project. Deanne Fleming.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. I'm glad to see such a nice turnout here. So for World Polio Day, we are doing something different this year. And so Purple Pinky, I don't know if all of you know what happens when people in other countries get vaccinated, little babies, children, their pinky is painted purple. And so we are partnering this year with the Wyoming Pastry Shop in Wyoming, Ohio. And these are order forms that you can order a box of donuts for $20. That donation fully goes to the vaccination project. The cost of the donuts are funded by Club 17. So 100% of your donation will go, and a lot of options that you can choose. One being that you're going to go pick it up on the day. So it's October 22nd, Friday, in honor of World Polio Day on the 24th. Second option is if you'd like to donate to a fire department, a police department, a school, you just choose that option, give us the address, and our hands-on service people, led by our Hux Miller, will be delivering those as a hands-on service project. Or, thirdly, you can have it delivered to your home. So if you want to order several boxes of donuts and have them delivered and donate them, we'll be doing that. I'm going to have each of you take one of these forms because I know each and every one of you is going to donate some donuts or have them enjoy for yourself. Oh, so the donuts are a glazed stick donut. There's a glazed stick donut with a little dab of purple icing on the end, looking like a little finger, pinky. So thus the Purple Pinky Donut fundraiser. So all good. And secondly, this is a really good one. This is something to really think about. So Large Club Conference is in Cincinnati. Linda has done an amazing job with all her ideas, everything coming in, the speaker specifically. On Thursday, October 14th, our speaker is Kirk Lippold. He is a retired U.S. Naval officer, and his boat was not bombed, what do you say? Attacked, torpedoed, right. So the Cole, yes, the Cole. So he is our speaker, a perfect opportunity to invite someone to come to the event, the luncheon, on Thursday, October 14th. Prospective member event. Lunches are free. It's not on here. I meant to put that on there. But if you invite someone, guest, prospective member, the lunch is free, just like Christina at the office, and she'll take care of it. So I want each of you to take one of these two. It talks about Kirk Lippold, which is going to be a fantastic speaker on that event. So all of the guests here should come to hear that as well. So those are the two things I have. Thanks for the time, and I'll pass these out.
Thank you very much, Deanne. And also, on that 14th of October, we will be hosting the Large Club Conference then. So if you attend the meeting, you'll be able to meet others from the 60 large clubs in the USA. Over 100 people have already responded and replied to attend. So you will be able to meet the large people from the large clubs of Rotary for the United States and Canada. This is the first time, will be the first time we will be hosting this in 60 years. And Linda's been working very hard on that, so that will be a great meeting to attend. Next we have the World Affairs Committee, And the World Affairs Committee's project this year for 2021-22 is the Ghana project. I won't go through all of the details with you because we're here. Those, the information, detailed information is in the E-raise. We do have John Farmeyer here, and we also have Archery. We have Alexia Archery, who's here to represent Rotary. Let's give Rotary a round of applause. The World Affairs event will be November 10th, and if you have questions about that, please contact our members before and Tony Archery. Next week, our meeting will be John Keiswetter. Also, he's the author of Joe Nuxall, The Old Left-Hander and Me. He spoke with our club several years ago. He was a very dynamic speaker, and many people are looking forward to his presentation again coming up next week. Our program this evening, we will have the owner of the Revel Urban Winery speak with us. He is Anthony Maieron. He will give us some history of the family's business and the other areas where they have locations in the U.S. And let's give a warm Rotary welcome to Anthony Maieron.
Thank you. I'm glad I have the stand. Can you guys hear me okay? No. Okay, a little higher. All right, can you hear me okay? Yeah. All right, cool. I'm glad we have the stand here because I wanted to hold my glass, so this is good. And I don't usually carry these around. I was wiping up the stairs. Always working. So, who's been to Revel before?
I have.
Yes. Right.
I bought a lot of wine.
Yeah, awesome. Yes, you did buy your wine. Yeah, I remember that. So, first of all, thank you. This is an incredible opportunity for us. We are a very small grassroots business, and it's very purposeful, not very intentional. We're really all about us in creating an atmosphere, diversity around good wine and good conversation. We have no flat screen TVs here on purpose. This is all about getting off your devices and just connecting with people. And we felt the best way to do that is through wine. Now, that sounds great, but when you think about how we started, we had no intention of ever doing this. And my partner back there is JC. He's in the audio, partner in crime. So it's basically, I'm one of the owners, JC's one of the owners, and our wives are also owners. We're actually, they're more majority women-owned. So we're a women-owned business. JC and I, thank you. Yeah, we are kind of always in front of people, right? They're just like, I don't necessarily want to. But if it was up to JC and I, this business would probably be in the ditch. They're like, they are the brains behind. I was like, I'm driving the car. What were you doing? It's like, I was messing with the radio. I'm like, no, how do we not know this turn was coming up? My head was out the window. So, yeah, mass props to our wives, because when we decided to do this, it was really our idea. JC's and I we just had no idea how we were going to do this. So I'll take you through a little bit backstory, how we got here. So I am first generation Italian. My parents are from Italy. My dad's from the Alps of Italy. My mom's from Naples. And my grandfather actually had a vineyard in Naples. This is during World War II. And he would make the wine, but he would do it more in a juice format. Like, he would do the press, and then he would send the juice to like brokers called Sansis, and then a Sansi would basically add water to it or blend it, whatever. He didn't care. He just sold the juice. So so there's some history there. And my dad, he's the one who taught me how to make wine when I was 6 years old in my garage. He got into wine because he's too cheap to go buy it in the store. He was like, why would I buy that? I can make that myself. So that's really how this started. And he would pick grapes, and this is in Kokomo, Indiana, if you guys know where Kokomo, Indiana is, right? Yeah, this is not in like wine country. My parents actually met at a wedding in Philadelphia. He was the best man, she was maid of honor, and they dated 3 months, and my dad proposed to her, and she said yes. And I'm like, Mom, that was kind of short. Like, she's like, he had a very nice car. And I was like, oh, okay. And that's kind of how it was in the 50s, 60s. So what he didn't tell my mom was that he just took a job in Kokomo, Indiana. He was working for Philco Radio in Philadelphia, which is a radio company. And he had a guy that worked with him. He's like, Joe, I just took a job for Delco Electronics in Kokomo, Indiana. If you live in Kokomo, you'll live like a king. My dad's like, I'm going. And he meets my mom. He's like, hey, let's get married. My mom's like, yeah, you have a nice car. And then he's like, guess what? We're going to move to Kokomo. And he's like, okay, great. And she dresses like she's from Milan. And that doesn't work in Kokomo, Indiana. So little to say, I'm the youngest of four, and we grew up in a very different household. And, my dad made wine in the garage. My mom cooked Napolitan dishes, which had a lot of seafood, which also means squid. So when we'd have like dinner and we'd play baseball in the backyard with my friends, I'm like, hey, do you want to come over for dinner? We're having squid with peas. And people were like, that is terrible. It was almost like, I was like, we're having a human being. Would you like to come over? So that was different. And then my mom, I didn't like have Fruit Loops for breakfast or anything like that. My mom made a coffee drink called a zombognon. And a zombognon had coffee, a whipped egg, and a ton of sugar. And it called for marsala, but she didn't give that to me because I was a kid. But everything else is fine. So I'm in the 80s, right? The early 80s, and I'm at the coffee. I'm like, got my bus stop, and I'm like just sipping my coffee, So again, going back to a very different upbringing. But the one thing I do remember that was so awesome was my dad making wine in the garage. And it wasn't necessarily the two of us or my brother helping, right? It was all of his friends coming over and making wine with him, and they would tell jokes and stories, and it was just music. There was no TVs, and I remember them coming to the house later and having dinner with my parents, and they would lose track of time, and I'm like, this is something so special, especially today where we have devices and things like that, to not check your watch, not check your device, you're just enjoying the conversation. And I thought that was I was like, no pun intended, but I'm like, if you can bottle this and you can create this type of experience, it'd be cool. So fast forward, I go to college in Indiana, and I move out to Portland, Oregon, in the .com boom, and I started really drinking wine. Willamette Valley is just south of Portland. That's where a lot of Pinot Noirs come from. So you get down to a lot of different wineries, and they had urban wineries. They had urban wineries, which were basically wineries not on a vineyard. They would just source the fruit from local vineyards and make it all on site. I'm like, wow, this is what my dad was doing, but it's like cooler and sexier and cool. Like, this is like what you would want to do, right? And I remember having a conversation with my mom, 40 and slipped my wife. She was like, I know it's so funny. Did you get that on tape? No, my wife can't watch this. So my wife, she's like, hey, we've been living in Portland for 8 years, and your dad's getting older. If he were to pass away tomorrow, would you be okay with that, or you feel regret? And I was like, oh my gosh, I would feel total regret because I don't feel like he really knows me, or my parents even know me as an adult. I've been out in Portland, and I'm doing well enough where I can get buy him steak dinner or take him to a game, right? And I'm like, we're moving back to the Midwest. She's like, hold on, that's not really what I meant. Slow down. And I was like, no, we're moving. And so she's like, okay, so we're going to move to the Midwest. I don't want your parents to pop in unannounced on a Sunday. And I was like, that's at least a 3-hour drive. Even 2 hours, you're still within the radius. So we picked Cincinnati on the map. It was centrally located to my family and far enough from my parents to not pop in on a Sunday, right? And so I moved here, and it was the fall. My dad calls me. I just bought my house. I lived in Oakley. And he's like, hey, son, how's it going? I'm like, great. He's like, your mom wants all the winemaking equipment out of the house. Do you want to take over the winemaking? And I was like, I would love to. He said, great, because your sisters don't like the taste of wine, and your brother only drinks Coors Light. And I was like, okay. He's like, so you're my only chance? I'm glad you said yes. And I was like, oh. He's like, so I'm going to come this weekend, and I'm going to bring all the equipment, which sounds really fancy. I mean, it was like a couple old barrels and a crank. This is in the back of a car, not the back of a bus, right? Or a big truck, etc. So I was like, yeah, just come in this weekend. And he's like, we'll make wine together. Just you and I. It'll be like a father-son. He's like, no, not you and I. We need more people. So I was like, oh, well, I just moved to Cincinnati, so I don't know anybody. And he's like, well, find friends because we need them to make wine. And the only guy I knew was that guy in the back, John Coleman. And I was like, he's on, So I was like, I'm on the phone. No, he was on the phone, and I get off the phone with my dad. I'm like, hey, JC. I said, you wanna make wine this weekend? And what did you say? Hell yeah. That's all it took. Hell yeah. I had no idea what he signed up for. I was like, yes, I got one guy. So I called my dad. I'm like, I got a buddy from work. And so we came in. We went to go pick grapes. We went up to Michigan, and we got like Concord grapes. This is where he was getting a majority of his grapes from a Welch's farmer. Like most of the grapes went to Welch's. And we come back to Cincinnati, and you have a hydrometer, and it kind of gives you an idea of the alcohol content. And it's coming in at 18%. And JC looks at me, John looks at me, and he's like, he calls me A-Train. He's like, we cool, A-Train? I'm like, it's coming hot, like real hot. And it dawned on me, all these years, my dad's been making hooch. I had no idea. My dad's like, this is tastes fantastic. I'm like, it's 18%. He's like, I don't understand what your problem is, son. So we would make wine, and we worked together, and of course our friends were like, the holiday season, and like, hey, I heard you and John make wine. Can you bring it to my Christmas party? I'm like, how much food do you have? Do you have bread? Here's your bottle, here's your baguette, you know? And we would give bottles of wine to our friends, and I would say, you know, tell me what you think, and then they're like, well, I sat down with my wife, it was a great time, and we had like a pasta dish, a bolognese, it was fantastic. And then the night went on. I slept in the guest bedroom. I never sleep in the guest bedroom. They would lose the night. So I go back to my dad, and I was like, we have to change the recipe because this is really 18%. It's kind of high, right? And he's like, well, he's an engineer. So he's like, if you change anything, you only can change one thing. If you change two things and something goes wrong, you don't know what caused it, right? I'm like, damn, it's going to take a lot longer to get to where I want. So I'm like, okay. So every year we would get better yeast, better barrels. We'll get better grapes even. And year 6, we're using a Steuben grape from northern Kentucky, and it tastes like a Chianti or Sangiovese. The nose was a little bit off, but it was delicious. And I gave a bottle to a guy I work with. He's a big-time connoisseur. I said, I want your unfiltered feedback, what you think about my wine. He says, best homemade wine I ever had. I'm like, that is awesome. You said homemade. He's like, you're not using really wine-making grapes. He's like, you're not using vinifera. And I'm like, what's vinifera? He's like, how are you a winemaker? You not know what vinifera is? I'm like, I learned how to make wine in the garage. Like, I had no idea any of this, right? He's like, vinifera is going to be a lot of the grapes that grow in like Europe, etc., and you can plant in the States. And those are going to be like the Pinot Noirs, the Cabernet Sauvignons, right? He's like, go get Merlot. He's like, nobody buys Merlot. Ever since the movie Sideways came out, he's like, they can't get rid of this stuff, right? Which is the power of Hollywood, actually. And he's like, go to find some place you can get some Merlot grapes from. So Pix Produce is up in Norwood, a bunch of Italian guys, and I was just like, I want some Merlot. And they're like, yeah, we got you. And Merlot shows up at my house, and we made a barrel, and it was delicious. It was the first time I felt like we were winemakers. I'm like, oh wow, we actually can make really good wine. It was the first time my wife actually drank the wine. Like before that, she'd be like, oh, this is awesome. What do we have in the cupboard over there? I was like, you don't like my wine? She's like, no, I appreciate you and I love you, but yeah, it's just really alcoholic, I'm like, yes, we're getting there. So now the problem was that we end up having a very expensive hobby. We're sourcing fruit from California as a hobby. We're, one barrel becomes 2 becomes 3. And we are spending about $6,000 every fall on fruit, right? Only to give the wine away. And we started to collect some money from our friends to give them cases. And I'm measuring where the 4th barrel is going to go down the basement. I remember my wife coming downstairs. She's like, what's going on? I was like, we're measuring where the 4th barrel is going to go? She's like, this is crazy. I can't get to the barrels. I can't get to I can't get to the paper towels. I can't get to anything. Your barrel's on the way. And by the way, I think this is called bootlegging because we're not paying taxes on any of this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, you're right. I'm like, she's right 99.99999% of the time. So we were like, we should write a business plan for Revel, basically this establishment that you're in today, was this idea of taking what we were doing at the home, very similar to like a brewery, right? And then taking it into an establishment and making it open to the public. And I remember when we decided to open up this winery, we wanted to be a little bit different. I'm the black sheep in my family. My mom thinks that's a bad thing. Like, she would hear me talk about, like, she's like, you black sheep, we love you. I don't understand what your black sheep is, you know? And she thinks it means outcast. And I'm like, no, it's just like you deviate from the norm, you do something a little bit different. And I'm like, and I've always done that in the family. So when I look back, nobody's ever put a product on a table. So when I look back at my lineage of winemakers, I was like, it'd be really cool to make a wine and be able to sell it so somebody could put it on the table and share our story, right? This building became available. It was all boarded up. I mentioned to a couple of you guys that there was, I think you asked what this was before, and I said a lady was living on this floor with 12 cats, and that was it. Right? It was all boarded up. But originally, it was with stone. They made stone monuments, like tombstones and architectural details, so it was structurally sound. But it's a freight elevator, and it was perfect for a winery. So we were able to buy the building, and then we did a lot of the work ourselves. And this idea behind this establishment was this grassroots, really, do a lot of just build it on love, but we also wanted to bring something different to Cincinnati. And I think that the key aspect, and I know a lot of you guys are business owners, it's the branding is absolutely key. And we wanted to really stick to our guns and deliver something to Cincinnati that they've never seen before. And an urban winery isn't a crazy idea. Most breweries, a lot of breweries aren't on hop farms, right? So it was this idea that you would make wine really approachable. Not just say that, but really be that, right? Based on your vibe, the music you play, the bartenders, the staff you have, right? The events you do, the non-for-profits that you promote and benefit. It was just be part of the community. And when we had this idea and we opened, we're like, we have no idea what this is going to be. I don't know how well it's going to be received, right? This is so different for Cincinnati. And the community really opened us with open arms, right? They welcomed us with open arms. And when you ask people about Revel, it was very purposeful and not very intentional. And I think that's one of the best compliments that we ever received, because being purposeful is all about, having this, like we're playing the long ball. We want to be here for 30 years. We want to be a staple within the Cincinnati community. And we also want to help others, right? We are making wine. We want to get our wine out there. But it really comes down to just being real. And I think that in order to be real, you just got to believe in what you believe in. And when we decided to have this establishment, we're like, let's make great wine. Like, let's source fruit from the best areas of the states and from the world. Like, we get all of our wine comes from California and Washington, majority Washington. We work with growers in both those regions. We work with growers in Chile for Carmenere, and we get the fruit shipped here to Cincinnati. We crush everything in our back alley, by hand, right? And we press everything. It's all very handcrafted, right? But it was just like, it was all focused on the quality, because we knew we were going to do something very different, but we knew we didn't want the product to suck, basically. So we're like, because if we don't take the steps to make sure the quality's there, then I think the whole business model falls down a little bit, because how we present ourselves, you may think that we don't take it very seriously. And that's where the brand comes in, right? It's just this idea of being very approachable and very open. So when we do these type of events, again, we appreciate this. It's all about sharing wine, conversation, enjoying good wine, and having good conversation. So again, thank you so much for having us and being in our facility. So, cheers.
Thank you very much, Anthony, for giving us a little history of Revel Urban Winery. We are so glad that you were able to have your business to be at a point where we can actually do service together, as you were talking about, conversation, building up the community. Rotary, our Rotary Club, is a service organization, and we appreciate you partnering with us and allowing us to have our meeting here at your place this evening. Let's give Anthony another round of applause. Yes, and with that, we will do split the pot next. Christy, do you have the numbers about how much the amounts? So Christy is getting those numbers together. While she's doing that, I will mention too that we have the Top Golf event tomorrow evening at the Top Golf establishment in Westchester. Are any of you signed up for the Top Golf event? Woohoo! So we'll see you. We still have maybe 2 slots left. If you're interested, you can see Christy tonight. But we are looking forward to that. We had a great time the 2 years before with that. And also on Saturday, we have the District 6670 Build-A-Bed project that will be at the Fairhaven Church in Dayton, Ohio. So Springboro, I'm sorry about that, Springboro, Ohio, with our District Governor, Carol Hughes, who was our speaker just a few weeks ago. So you can still sign up for that as well. And with that, we will have Anthony pull the winning ticket for Split the Pot.
All right.
And Christy, how much is the?
Today's winner gets 20.
You want to come up and say that? We'd like to see you up front, Christy.
Today's winner gets $20, and if you win the big pot, if you pull the hearts, Queen of Hearts, you get $635. $635.
You want to read? Anthony is going to read the last 4 digits. Anyone can get the $25, and only Rotarians from Club 17 qualify for the $635 pot. Okay, the last 4 digits.
9341. 9341. All right.
It's Jeff Dornetti. Jeff Dornetti. Let's see if you could pull the Queen of Hearts for $635. Oh, 2 of clubs. Thank you so very much, Jeff. Maybe next time. And lastly, our meeting next week will be John Keiswetter, the author, and who has spoken with us maybe 2 to 3 years ago. He wrote the book Joe Nuxall, The Old Left-Hander and Me. He will be back to speak with us again next week, and we will be back at the Hilton Netherlands at 12 o'clock. Make it a great Rotary week. We'll see you next week.